Thank you for auditing Professor Skye's Record Review, the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's in his basement this morning. I'm not in quarantine again, I just don't want to wake up my family. It's before I start teaching today, and I want to get a video out. It's been a couple days, and I'm going to be reviewing the album Tyron by Slowthai. Now, if you've already seen the thumbnail and the title, you know, sometimes I don't know. I guess I do get a little clickbaity with my titles and my thumbnails. I figure that my channel is very dense and very content heavy, and I take a very serious approach. So if I have kind of a lighter, more typical thumbnail, maybe I'll get more people to come and watch my overly thought out thoughts. I don't know, maybe I'm just chasing clicks. But the title here is Tyron or Tryhard. And I'm just telling you that, you know, I like thinking about language. Obviously, I teach a language. But when I saw the name Tyron, I did first read it as Tryon, right? Now, Tyron is his name, his original name of the artist Slowthai, Tyron Frampton. I was going to call it Frampton Comes Alive, but that wouldn't have worked. So I thought of this even just when I saw the title, Tyron or Tryhard. And this is the thing. I think it actually does apply to the album pretty well. This concept of tryhard. Now, I'm going to sort of do my usual thing. I only do positive reviews, so I'm not going to be trashing this album as a tryhard album, but I'm going to talk about the ways that it kind of flirts in this area of being sort of a tryhard album. Now, if you don't know what that word means, there's multiple definitions. I don't mean it so much in the noun sense. I'm reading this from dictionary.com. An underskilled or untalented participant attempting to compensate with sheer effort in order to succeed. Not really that, because he's definitely skilled and talented. It's more this, the verb. To make an obvious attempt to excel, but only to achieve moderate success, especially when measured against ambitious goals. So that's the thing that I felt from this album all the way through. First, I just saw the name and I thought that, but then as I started listening, it really got a lot deeper, because this album has the feeling of an album that's trying to feel important. It's trying to feel like it's doing something. Now, his first album, which I haven't really listened to until I was reviewing for this, There's Nothing Great About Britain, has kind of a similar feel. You know, a sort of important, monumental title that sort of announces this is going to be a declarative statement about Britain from one of its forgotten members of society, right? But this one isn't that way at all. You know, when an artist, especially a rap artist, just uses their name as a title, it's supposed to be an indicator, you know, not their pseudonym, not their star name, but just, this is me. You know, think Marshall Mathers LP, The Carter, Life and Times of S. Carter. There are many examples of rap artists who are like, but wait a minute, I go by, you know, they call me the Prizzy Prof, but my real name is Payne, you know, Skye Payne. That's the name of this album. It's just me. It's not Prizzy Prof, right? So that already indicates a sort of try-hard move, because it's kind of an ambitious thing, right? Trying to say, I'm going to drop the mask, I'm going to drop the facade and show you who I am. On a structural level, the album echoes this kind of try-hard maneuver by having two very clear halves to it, okay? The first half is all in caps. All the titles are in caps, and it's all like about swagger and selling drugs and being rich. And the second half is all lowercase. Oh, lowercase? You don't think that you're important, Slowthai? Oh. And this is mostly about the perils of fame, and about being sad, and about doing too many drugs, and about feeling bad about it. Mixed in with this is a tendency on the second half with the production to do things which very clearly are designed to be played for your parents, okay? Sometimes, you know, if you ever have to play hip-hop for your parents, it's hard to pick out a good song to play. But there are tracks, the way they're produced, the way that they're pronounced so clearly, the way the flow comes, there is a certain amount of, like, maybe not parents, but maybe, I don't know, voters for award shows. I get that feeling on the second half. We put that all together, and theoretically, this could be a try-hard bad album. But it's not. It's very, very good. I really enjoy this album, and I am not at all trashing it by bringing up this point. It's just more this feeling that I get in the back, you know? It's funny because I had a similar feeling listening to the Chance the Rapper album, which I liked. So everyone could just shut up. I think The Big Day is a good album. I think it's interesting. I think it's ambitious. But my question for that was, is it greatness or Grammy bait? And I had a kind of similar feeling of like, when you feel so hard, someone pushing for acceptance, being pushed to be seen as something more than just, oh, a normal hip hop artist. That's the feeling that it could be. It mainly works, I think, because he's a very interesting rapper. I like his flow. At times, his flow seems almost intentionally old school, often maybe even somewhat like intentionally corny with some of his similes, but he's able to switch up his flow, kind of go fast, kind of go slow. It's nothing like special, but it's always very solid. And the production, mostly by Quest Darko, or Draco. I guess it's Darko, I'm gonna say that. By the way, I'm not a music reviewer. I am a professor of French. So if I get things wrong, if it seems like I don't know anything, I don't. Most of the production is by him, and it is great. Like, his production style is fascinating. It's not too trap, it's not too drill, it's very solid. And I'll get into very soon what it is that he does, what the production stamp on this album that makes it so interesting. The usage of samples and of voices to create melodies and rhythms that are the backbone of the songs. So I definitely recommend this album. I definitely recommend listening to it. The sort of I'm a sad gangsta thing, the sort of the half swagger, half sensitive poet thing. It actually he pulls it off, even though on the surface it sounds like something that might be obnoxious. Before I get into the album more proper, I have been doing a lot of rap from all over the world. I did a rap album about Ghana, a rap review about a Ghana group, a group from Germany. I'm now back to England. I've done maybe 5 or 6 British rap reviews. But I just want to take a second to appreciate where Tyron Frampton is from. He's from a place called Northampton, which I didn't know about until I reviewed for this album, this review. It turns out Tom York of Radiohead was born there. And it was in the hospital at Northampton that they screwed up, and that's why he has the lazy eye. So a lot of Tom York comes from there. Peter Murphy from Bauhaus is from there. Obviously, Slowthai is from there. And so is Alan Moore. So that's kind of cool. That's where Alan Moore lives right now. The guy who made Swamp Thing amazing, and Watchmen, and V for Vendetta. So I don't know. That's kind of fun. England is a very difficult place to understand geographically and culturally, and what are the differences between all the places. So I don't know. I like having the idea that if I ever go to Northampton, I will be listening to Slowthai and reading Swamp Thing. All right, so let me go through the album a little bit here. What I'd like to do is start off with what I call my homework. So this is the song I want you to listen to get an example of what this album sounds like in case you've never heard it. I'm putting the link up there, Playing with Fire. This is the midpoint song, in between the two different sides of the album, the swaggy side and the sensitive side, right? And it's a perfect mixture between these two styles in terms of its production and its rapping. Very kind of downbeat, and it does the thing which I absolutely love this album doing. A lot of rappers use samples and use them well, but some way that Quest Darko uses these samples is just astounding, where it's like their samples are usually taken and pitched up or altered a little bit, as it is with here. Play with fire, fire, play with fire, let it rip. But it's like, play with fire, fire, play with fire, let it rip. And they just keep using it, and it creates this great melody and this great rhythm that goes throughout most of the song, and it's introduced right at the top, and it's this production element which really is the hallmark of the album. If there's a style to this album, that is it, and it's really cool, and it's really catchy, and it creates a great basis for the rhymes and for everything else that happens. The themes of this, being the first half, is still about being very rich and successful and thinking about what it is to be rich. But then also he brings in some stuff about being sad, about his friends being in jail, and about his life. So I'll read you some of his lyrics from the first half. And the coke makes the cats look like they're Jar Jar Binks, top it off with a wink. I'm a Star Wars fan. I like Jar Jar Binks. I like that he mentioned Jar Jar Binks seriously in a song. That's the icing on the cake, the cherry on the top. My bike ain't got no brakes, that's why I never stop. That's a great example of the kind of lyrics on here which you could consider corny, right? My bike ain't got no brakes, that's why I never stop. But there's some way that he delivers it where you find it charming. It's not lame, it's quite cool. And I say it to your face because I don't give an F. Next, name a time and place, getting brave, dug your grave. I'm the next best thing since electric. It's what I said, and that's expensive. That's a good example of the kind of line that I like from him. I'm the next best thing since electric. Like, electric what? Like how does he mean that? That's not even an expression, but he's using it. And then we have some of his nice kind of internal rhymes here. Remember, I didn't have a flint, skint, trying to get set on fire with my lighter. I did it ambidextrous. So, like using flint and skint and this idea of a fire and trying to light a fire and coming from nothing and having something, which is what a lot of this album is about, it's all kind of wrapped in there, along with this odd Star Wars reference and references to drugs. It's all kind of mixed up together. He also references something called a Cruyff turn. There's some soccer player who did this move that made people fall down. And I just like that because, you know, in rap, there's a lot of references to basketball and to breaking people's ankles, which is a way of making people look foolish on a basketball court. So it's just kind of cool. There's a British version of breaking ankles, which is, I guess, a Cruyff turn. And a nice example of, you know, sport and hip-hop, how they all often go together. And just internationally how that works. And then this has a mournful outro. This one song has a mournful outro. Beautiful production. You still will hear in the background a little bit of play with fire, fire, play with fire, let it rip. Just a little bit of that in the background. But it's him transitioning to this next phase. Both sides of this album are successful. My favorite line on the album, I hate the internet. It's just funny. You know, like, yeah, I hate the internet too. I also love it. Nice song, you know, nice track about not giving into despair. Don't let your mattress swallow you, wallowing, thinking what you got to do or going to do. It's a very nice line, very hopeful, and a good indication of that sort of gee whiz positivity that is sort of lurking underneath a lot of this negativity, which I think is part of this successful creation of a very approachable rap album. I'm going to go briefly through the rest of the album now. Now that you've listened to the homework. 45 Smoke is the first track, and I was very excited because I really like this track. It's a great opener, very kind of ominous sounding beat. The chorus is very restrained. It's just saying 45 Smoke. It starts off with him saying Bomboclat, which I like Jamaican slang, but I always find that one a little bit unsettling. Still, apparently his family, based on my research, is half Irish, half from Barbados, so I guess it makes sense. He has a very cool flow on here. It almost feels like he's running out of space on each line. And then the outro, he switches it up. So again, this ability to switch up flows. Shotters, coppers, alcoholics, drinking fosters anabolic. Is he just saying words, or do these things all mean something? Next track is called Cancelled. It's not about cancel culture, don't worry. Starts with a flute, then kind of drops out. Nice heavy bass. The first half of this album, you really need headphones just to pick up how good the bass is all the way through. This features another British rapper, Skepta, and they work very well together. This is the best guest appearance on the album. There's quite a few. But he has kind of this low voice that goes well with the more rapid fire, a little bit higher voice of Slowthai. Now you're dripping blood. And this guy also references like a very obscure poet, Jodorowsky, so that's kind of interesting. And then when Slowthai comes in, he plays so well off of Skepta that I would like to see a full album of these two, I think. I think that would work really well. Next track is called Mazza, which I guess is short for Mazzoline, which according to the internet is a British term. You know, a lot of this sort of, a lot of the themes of the second half of the album make their appearance here too. I never felt love before the drugs, so now I say what's up. You know, but it's, you know, it's interesting and it does seem honest. And even if part of me is sarcastically saying, you know, is Tyron a tryhard, it does seem like he's being honest about his life, even if he's packaging it in a way that is so accessible. It's nice having A$AP Rocky on here, a different accent. I don't particularly like, I mean, coming after Skepta, he's definitely outclassed on this, but I do like his outro where he does a lot of interesting, as he leaves the verse, he announces Slowthai coming back, bling bling, that's a barcode, ring ring, that's a smartphone, beep beep, there your heart go, Slowthai, here your part go. Kind of fun following in. Next track is called Vex, which according to Slowthai is about being angry at social media. All right. It's a great grimy beat. It's kind of grating too, which I like. I like it when beats can be annoying and good at the same time. What, W-O-T, is an interlude, and it's it's like this 45-second song, which is almost the best track on the album. It begins off with A$AP Rocky saying sort of in the zone, using that technique I was talking about of taking a sample and chopping it up and using it as like a backdrop. Apparently he was supposed to do more, but then Pop Smoke died, and they were so impacted by it that they just stopped, and that's why it's so short, but definitely gets to the point and is really strong. Next track is called Dead. Death is a big theme on this album. This actually is produced by Quest Darko, and he gets a featuring on here, so that's nice. Again, using the distorted voice repeated as a rhythmic element. Much of this has this cool, ominous sound, which it's sort of, it's kind of in the grimy zone of Wu-Tang production, but it doesn't feel like it's trying to ape it too much. It's funny because in the beginning, I thought he said, "You can take away my fish, but you can never take my mind." He says, "You can never take away my flesh." This seems to be just another song about the way money changes you and how things change and how you have to, according to him, focus on living forever through my music and my art. Then Playing with Fire ends the first half, and then we get into I Tried on the second half. The first track, I Tried. A beautiful old Kanye-ish sample, just great sample of some random guy from Chicago who died of a heroin overdose like 4 years ago. I don't know, I never heard of this person. I ended up going down a rabbit hole trying to find out about this musician. But this beautiful line of I tried to kill myself, beautiful sample, beautiful production, goes so well with his voice. It's a great example of what makes this album special and way beyond my clickbaity title. And then sometimes he'll just be kind of goofy, back and forth like a hockey puck. Like, really? Like, doesn't that kind of sound like a 1984 rhyme as opposed to a 2021? But I like that. I like that he's able to do that. Next track is called Focus, produced by Kenny Beats. I really like Kenny Beats. But, I mean, honestly, Quest Darko, I think I would have preferred if the whole thing was done by Quest Darko, because I think the tone that he sets is so good for this whole album. I wish it was all the way through. I like what Kenny Beats is doing. I mean, the beat is just doing so much. I mean, his beats are always very full. The B section is totally different than the A section. There's just crazy samples in the back. But I do wish it kind of stayed more consistent. Sort of, sad about missing his life of crime, missing his life of crime and missing his family in his younger days and how fame has changed everything. It's funny because, having a rapper talking about how different his life is when they're not a household name, when, I guess in England his life must have changed a lot, but Slowthai certainly isn't that well known of a rapper, at least in America. So it is odd to be like talking about how things have changed, and it's like, wait, who are you? Next track is called Terms. Another just beautiful sample repeated multiple times. I'm just going to call it the Quest trick. Even though he didn't invent this kind of production, he uses it so well and so consistently on this album. We'll just call it the Quest trick sample move. He even references having a snake in his boots, which I think is a Toy Story reference. So we got Toy Story and Jar Jar Binks. Definitely have a kid who grew up in the late 90s. While I was listening to this, I was walking around in the snow. I live in Rochester. And I've lived with snow for most of my life. But for the first time in my life, I looked at the snow and it actually looked like snow when you draw it. The little geometrical shapes and everything. There were these big pieces of snow. It was just really beautiful. It was a really beautiful moment. I was sitting there, I was about to listen to the song Push, and I just was looking at these snowflakes, and I couldn't believe that they looked like the snowflakes from cartoons. I'd never seen that in my entire life. I'm just telling you that so you know how I was listening to this record. Next track is called Push. This is with Deb Never. This is the real sign of an album that's trying really hard to have some kind of crossover success. It's like guitar-led, very acoustic, kind of sing-songy. It feels like it's trying to be a breakout hit. Definitely the kind of rap song you could play for your mom. It's all about pray until something happens and push, kind of actualizing secret wish board kind of madness. It's a good track. It's a very good track. It's well produced, but it's the best example on this album of where I felt like, all right, I get it. You want to get bigger. Next track is called NHS, which I thought would be super political. It's not. It's mostly about growing up in poverty. But a beautiful, weirdly altered voice sample, the little Quest trick. Cool voice, just super twisted too. That's the part of the Quest trick, is just twisting that sample voice. The second verse has this whole kind of like, what's this without that structure, which is both very witty and kind of dumb at the same time, which I find interesting. You know, like what's Rick without Morty, what's Lil Wayne without codeine, what's love without hate, that kind of stuff. It gives that good example of just like a simple concept, well executed. Kind of like Push is the simple concept of kind of a folky female singer and a guitar with a rap underneath it. You know, just like these well executed simple ideas. Next track is called Feel Away, which I almost didn't review. I almost didn't review this whole album when I saw James Blake's name on there. It turns out James Blake is not the same person as James Blunt. You know, the "You're beautiful." I for some reason always got those two mixed up. I've recently realized that James Blake is actually a pretty interesting guy. He used to do a lot of dubstep. He's done a lot of good production, I guess, also for Jay-Z and Beyonce. So I think I need to spend a little bit more time with James Blake because he's not James Blunt. But again, this feels a little bit like Push, where it seems to be a very intentional move towards a more poppy guest star with beautiful singing voice kind of coming through. Like, again, imagining your parents going, I could listen to this. Not really my parents, but you know, parents in general. It's generally a nice track, but I'd say it's the low point of the album. I'd say Feel Away is by far the worst part of the album because it's where this instinct is the most pronounced. Then finally ADHD ends with almost like another Wu-Tang track. Grainy, grimy sample, awesome beat. Returns to the glory of the album. I like that it's about ADHD. You know, I probably have ADHD. I was never prescribed, but I can't stay focused when I'm trying to focus. But it's nice about, you know, kind of a sad song stuck in this rut, going back to the sort of emotional core of the album. So there you go. There's my review of Slowthai. I really enjoy it. I think it's a good album. I think it doesn't give in to its base instinct to try to please more people, but it does succeed in being a very solid rap album that is very ambitious. The final thing I'll say is one of my favorite Simpsons jokes. Homer Simpson is talking to somebody about who he's trying to impress, and the person asks him if he likes Thai food. He says, "Do you like Thai?" And Homer responds, "Yes. Do you like shirt?" So I was going to also call this album "Do You Like Slow Shirt?" But that wouldn't have been very funny. All right, well, I have to go teach, like, right now. I got my 111 class coming in. So for Joe Cool and for Alan Moore and the rest of the Watchmen, there's the camera.